Are you ready to take your striking game to the next level? Then you've got to get the focus ball. Dramatically improved footwork, timing, reflex, hand-eye coordination, head movement, and striking IQ. Lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere with the focus ball.
Hi, it's Minnie. You're watching Dante Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So the WBC has received so much backlash from their announcing that Canelo Alvarez is ordered to fight for the vacant WBC strap against, what's his name? Canelo-Yildirim or something like that. I don't even know the man's name, and it ain't even worth pronouncing right now. Only thing you need to know about this man is he's coming off of a loss, and before that, he was knocked out in 3 rounds against Chris Eubank. And before he lost his last fight, his 2 wins was against one guy who had 14 losses, and the other guy had over 30 losses and only 3 wins. This is the guy that the WBC ordered Canelo Alvarez to fight for a world championship belt. I mean, imagine if the NFL and the NBA, if they just completely did away with the playoffs, right? And then the people in charge of the league, they decided who would actually go to the Super Bowl, who would actually go to the finals. So what they would do is they would order one of the best teams in the league to play against one of the worst teams in the league for the NBA finals or the NFL Super Bowl, skipping over all these other teams that are considered probably the number 1, the number 2, the number 3 seed in the nation, in the league. This is equivalent to what the WBC tried to do when it comes to Canelo Alvarez. At least that's what we thought. We had all thought, according to the reports, it was the WBC who was ordering this, as if this had nothing to do with Canelo, even though we had already knew before. This obviously has something to do with Canelo Alvarez. But once again, because of all of the backlash that the WBC president has received, it forced him to spill the beans and air out Canelo Alvarez. Mauricio Sulaimán's exact words were, Canelo Alvarez wasn't ordered to fight Avni. He requested it. Man, he just dropped the bomb on Canelo Alvarez, didn't he? I'm telling you guys, man, the truth always comes to light. You just have to wait for it. The truth will always come to light. This is the second time that the WBC had to come out and air out fighters to save face for the reputation of their own brand. The first time he did it is when he announced this new fake WBC franchise belt, which is kind of like a ghost invisible belt. You can't defend the belt. You can't fight for the belt. There's no ranking system for the belt. So this belt that the WBC president came up with is no better than the belt that you would buy at Walmart to hold your pants up. So when the president received backlash for making up these fake belts just to protect his favorite fighters like Canelo Alvarez and Vasyl Lomachenko, once he received backlash, he came out and said, whoa, wait a minute now. It wasn't me that just handed these belts out. Those fighters actually reached out to me and they wanted some type of consolation belt for the fact that they did not want to fight their mandatories. This is what the WBC president said. And guys, that's pretty much exactly what it is. It's a consolation belt. That's what it should be called. It's a second place belt because first place would be the real WBC belt, the one that Canelo Alvarez gave up to avoid Jermall Charlo. Speaking of the Jermall Charlo point, I want to clear this up too. Since, you know, some people are talking about Jamel, he exposed his brother saying, oh yeah, you know, you didn't fight Charlo, etc. And now people are running with that. First of all, everything Jermall Charlo was saying, he was beefing with his brother, number one. But the most important point, guys, is if it were true that Jamal Charlo turned down a Canelo Alvarez fight when he was Canelo Alvarez's mandatory, Canelo would have never agreed to surrender his belt to Jamal Charlo. Just think about this for a second. For as long as you've been watching boxing, when have you ever heard of a story in the sport of boxing where the #1 mandatory didn't want to fight for the title and they said, oh, you know what, since you don't want to take the fight, we're just going to go ahead and give you the champion's belt? How does that make any sense? Once again, the president of the WBC, he already admitted that the franchise belt is not even an actual belt. It's not an actual belt. And he admitted that Canelo Alvarez, he asked for the belt. That alone proves that Jamal Charlo didn't turn down some official offer. Because once again, why would Canelo Alvarez reach out to the WBC and say, I'd rather give the belt to Jamal Charlo? And by the way, can you make up some belt? And that way it doesn't look like I ducked this guy and I avoided him. See, this is the problem that Canelo Alvarez is having right now. The fact that the WBC is airing him out like this, we already know what Canelo Alvarez is doing, what he's attempting to do. See, Canelo Alvarez has already caught wind. And he knows now when he listens, especially when he listens to other Mexican legends that are saying the same things about him that you hear me saying, which is the truth. No speculation, all the truth. You hear all of these Mexican champions, Eric Morales, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., Marco Antonio Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez. More recently, who was it? Someone else got added to that list. Who was it? I made a video about it. I didn't make a video about what Marcos Maidana said, but Marcos Maidana said something about it, and it was someone else. Another Mexican fighter said something about it. But anyway, you guys get the point. The point is the list just continues to get longer and longer, and Canelo Alvarez, he understands this. So Canelo, he's looking at the situation. He sees all these tough opponents that he's been pressured to fight. So Canelo Alvarez, he says to himself, how can I pick a soft touch without it looking like I'm cherry picking? Without it looking like I'm avoiding the best competition? How can I pull this off? Oh, I know. Mauricio, he'll do anything for me. The WBC, I got him in my pocket. They'll do anything for me. I'm gonna call up Mauricio and I'm gonna tell him, hey man, I need another favor. You know how you helped me take care of that Jamal Charlo problem? I need you to help me take care of another problem. They're pressuring me to fight some tough opponents, Mauricio. And what I want you to do is I want you to announce that you're ordering me to fight this Avni guy. That way it doesn't look like I picked him. I cherry picked him. But see, what Canelo didn't understand is he's been doing this for so long. 5 years ago when he was doing this, when he was avoiding the Charlo brothers, Demetrius Andrade at 154, and he was deciding to fight Liam Smith instead. When he was doing it back then, you had people making excuses for him, say, hey man, he's only 25 and he's gonna fight those guys. Eventually, he's still young. 5 years later, he's still doing it. Listen, man, you do a magic trick maybe once, maybe even twice, and people are really entertained, they're really impressed. Wow, that was cool how he did that magic trick. But you keep doing the same trick over and over again, people are gonna start saying, man, I wanna see a new trick, Canelo. And that's where we are with Canelo today. People are sick of the same trick that Canelo has been doing for the last 6, 7, 8 years. He's running out of time. And it just amazes me, as bad as Canelo Alvarez is looking, as bad as he's making Mexican greats look, because he's a reflection of all the fighters that came before him. And this is the reason why the Mexican greats are coming out and they continue to criticize Canelo heavily. But yet the only people that are still loyal and will defend Canelo Alvarez by all means are Mexican fans from America. Because it's not even Mexican fans in Mexico. Because I talked to a lot of Mexican fans in Mexico, and they're on the same page with the Mexican greats that are criticizing Canelo. It's only the Mexican fans in America that are defending him no matter how bad he's making his legacy look. But it's so crazy because it's an adverse effect if you think about it. Because if you want Canelo Alvarez to really look good, it would seem that you guys would encourage him to get in the ring with the best fighters instead of making his legacy look even worse. They're willing to do whatever it takes to protect this man from taking another L, even if he ends up retiring looking like the most overrated fighter next to Gennady Golovkin of this era. Man, I'm about to go even deeper on this video. But before I do, man, I gotta show some love to my sponsors, man. So check this out real quick and I'll be right back. Fellas, I've got some great news for you. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down. Basically, you will end up with a haircut shape up or an edge up. What they do is they tattoo small dots that look like hair follicles in the areas where you have lost your hair and then blend it with your existing hair. You can even choose what type of hairline you want, hard shape up or soft and natural finish. And to maintain it, all you gotta do is shave your hair every few days, which is something you already were probably doing anyway. So if you wanna get this hookup for my brothers out there in the UK and Europe, make sure you check out the Scalp This on Instagram. And for my brothers out there in the States, make sure you go ahead and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram. And when you go on their pages, you can see for yourself what these guys look like before. I mean, these guys are literally hair magicians. I've never seen anything like this before, but all I can tell you guys is this is a serious game changer for us men. So make sure you get in contact with Scalp This and Scalp Carolinas on Instagram. All right, so back to Canelo and the WBC. And it's crazy, man, because when you look at the dichotomy, you look at the contrast of Crawford's situation, where once again, Crawford, I made a video on it, Crawford, his team, they just turned down the Keith Thurman fight. And I said, I completely disagree with Crawford and his team. That would be a huge fight, and I think it's a terrible business move for Terrence Crawford if he's not going to just sit on the shelf and wait to fight Errol Spence or Manny Pacquiao, because his trainer said that's the only two fighters that Terrence Crawford wants to fight. He wants to fight the champions. And credit to Terrence Crawford, he, unlike Canelo Alvarez, this is the difference, a big difference. Terrence Crawford may be making a bad decision by not fighting against Keith Thurman, but the fact of the matter is Terrence Crawford wants to fight the #1 guy in the division, which is Errol Spence. Canelo Alvarez is doing the complete opposite. He's staying far, far away from the #1 guy in the divisions that he fights at. The #1 guy right now at 168 is David Benavidez and Caleb Plant. Now, credit to Canelo, according to reports, he did offer Caleb Plant a fight. But it was, of course, right after Caleb Plant had just fought, and they never came back to the table. See, this is another point you guys have to pay attention to. When you hear reports that Canelo offered this guy a fight, Canelo offered that guy a fight. So, they try to say, see, he's trying to fight these guys. But just think about this for a second. Remember, Canelo also offered Sergey Kovalev a fight. And Sergey Kovalev turned down the offer. And that fight still ended up happening. So how did that fight still end up happening after Kovalev turned that fight, but other fights, didn't come to fruition? Because Canelo Alvarez, he was not as eager to get in the ring with all those other fighters that we heard about negotiations like Caleb Smith and Billy Joe Saunders. He wasn't as eager to get in the ring with them. Canelo Alvarez didn't care what it took to make the Kovalev fight. Canelo has never done that before. Canelo has never negotiated and negotiations fell through to where his opponent was like, no, you guys are lowballing me, I want more money. Canelo has never walked away, fought someone else, and then went right back to negotiating with that guy. This is how bad he wanted to get Kovalev in the ring. Where was this eagerness to fight Charlo, Demetrius Andrade, Caleb Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, with or without an offer? But anyway, back to the top. I'm getting away from the original point I wanted to make. The contrast. When you compare the Canelo situation to the Terence Crawford situation, the video that I just did, you got all of these Americans, you have all these black fans that are completely criticizing Terence Crawford for not taking the Keith Thurman fight. That is the complete contrary to what the Canelo Alvarez fans are doing. They're the only ones still defending Canelo no matter what he does. So this is telling you who the real boxing fans are. The real boxing fans, they want to see the best fights. And that's the reason why you have so many fans criticizing Terence Crawford, because they want to see the best fights. When it comes to Canelo Alvarez fans, they would rather Canelo Alvarez fight these fighters we've never heard of, the Rocky Fieldings. They would rather him continue to fight these guys just to protect the one loss that he has, to make sure he doesn't get another L on his record. That's all they care about. They don't care about the sport of boxing. They only care about race, nationality, and pride, because that's what boxing is about to a lot of these type of decafs, dumb casual ass fans. And the funny thing when it comes to Terence Crawford is, once again, if Terence Crawford had his Hope insurance, if he wasn't on the coincidental list, we already know what they would be saying if Terence Crawford had Keith Thurman calling him out and he had his Hope insurance. They would be saying, oh, that's BS. Thurman just came off of a loss, etc., etc., etc. He doesn't deserve to fight Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is going after the #1 welterweight, Errol Spence. He's going after the guys with titles. Why is he gonna fight a guy who just lost and doesn't have a belt? This is what they would be saying if Terence Crawford had the complexion for the protection, if he had that Hope insurance. And once again, none of this that I'm saying is speculation. These are all facts. Everything I'm telling you can be proven by just reading previous comments of what they've said about certain fighters that didn't look like Terence Crawford. So I'm gonna give you guys some advice. You Canelo Alvarez fans, I'm gonna give you some advice. You better stop comparing Canelo Alvarez situation to anyone else. If you're gonna compare Canelo Alvarez situation to anyone and you wanna make him look good instead of making him look worse, compare his situation to Gennady Golovkin's. Compare his situation to one of his stablemates, Oscar Valdez. Compare him to fighters like that, other fighters that are avoiding tough opposition. Then you could at least say, oh, well, if you compare Canelo to Oscar Valdez, he fought this guy, that guy. If you compare him to Golovkin, he was willing to fight this guy when Golovkin wasn't willing to fight him. Then you would have a good comparison to make Canelo look good. But if you're trying to compare him to Terence Crawford's situation, the guy, Terence Crawford, that's going out trying to fight the #1 guy in the division, which would be equivalent to Canelo Alvarez. Let's just say hypothetically, Canelo Alvarez, he didn't want to fight the guys that Andrade and Charlo just beat. He wants to fight Andrade and Charlo because they're at the top and they're the undefeated champions in his division. Remember, Canelo Alvarez told us about a year ago, or a little bit longer than that he wanted to unify the belts at 160. Coincidentally, the same thing that Gennady Golovkin said at one point before the opposition and his mandatories became tougher than he expected and anticipated. But my point was, if Canelo Alvarez, once again, didn't want to fight the guys coming off of defeats, and he wanted to fight the undefeated champions, the #1, #2 guys in the division, that would be equivalent to what Terence Crawford is attempting to do right now. So Terence Crawford, even though I believe he should take either a Sean Porter or Keith Thurman fight, according to him, he doesn't want to fight those guys. He wants to fight the #1 guy in the division. But he's going to get criticized because the bar is set higher when you're on the coincidental list, and we all know this. So with that being said, I'm gonna wrap this video up. Pressure busts pipes. And I'm telling you right now, it's getting to the point where almost everyone is getting sick of what Canelo Alvarez is doing right now. You know, guys, I remember in the Jack Johnson era when Jack Johnson was trying to become the first black heavyweight champion. He was chasing the heavyweight champion for 2 years. He followed him everywhere. Every time the guy fought, Jack Johnson was there calling him out. It's funny because at the beginning, everyone wrote off Jack Johnson. Oh, he doesn't deserve to fight the champ. He doesn't deserve, no matter how much he called him out, people didn't really pay attention to it. But then, because he kept knocking people out, because he kept calling out the champion, it got to the point to where the champion had no more excuses to avoid him. And then eventually, even the champion's own team members and closest friends said, hey man, you're gonna have to fight this guy eventually because he's not going anywhere. And this is exactly what's happening to Canelo Alvarez today. He's running out of excuses and people wanna see a new magic trick. Either he's gonna retire looking like Gennady Golovkin, which is not a good thing, or he's gonna step his game up. Because right now, Canelo Alvarez, he's wasting his talent. Because man, I'm telling you, man, Canelo Alvarez is a very talented fighter. But he has to believe in himself. Canelo has to have the confidence that his fans claim they have for Canelo Alvarez. Apparently, Canelo doesn't have that same level of confidence. And I think it stems from his losses to Floyd Mayweather and his controversial win over Erislandy Lara. I think that made him very leery of getting in the ring with undefeated, slick, athletic fighters. So with that being said, we know that Canelo Alvarez has never been in a hurry to get in the ring with undefeated, slick, black fighters. Canelo Alvarez, he also said that he doesn't want to get in the ring with any more Mexican fighters. But guys, if that's the case, then wouldn't it seem that Canelo would have been eager to get in the ring with Arthur Beterbiev, Dimitri Bivol, even Caleb Smith, who he did offer a fight to? But once again, if Canelo Alvarez could have made the Kovalev fight happen, when Kovalev turned down the first offer, why couldn't he do the same thing with Caleb Smith? There's no doubt in my mind, if Canelo Alvarez was forced to fight the top guys, he would obviously fight Caleb Smith because that would be considered the weakest link. Caleb Smith, he looked horrible in his last fight against Ryder. He was exposed in that fight. We found out that Caleb Smith, he has no inside game. He's tall, which works perfectly for a shorter Canelo Alvarez that loves to go to the body. So that fight right there, that opponent, Caleb, would be kind of tailor-made for Canelo, but that's still not a guarantee win because Caleb is still a good fighter. He may not have an inside game, but he's damn good from the outside, and he's at a higher weight class, and he knows how to box. So one thing we know for sure is, even though he's not as good as some of the fighters in that division, he's better than Sergey Kovalev, and that's something Canelo is aware of. And that's why Canelo probably said, nah, it ain't worth giving this man the money he's asking for because this is not a guarantee win for me. See, when it came to Rocky Fielding, or especially when it came to Kovalev, who negotiated with Canelo, when it came to Sergey, he said, give this man whatever he wants because no matter what he wants, he getting his ass whooped. That's a guaranteed win for me. That's what Canelo said in that fight. But he's not saying that with the other guys, the younger guys in their prime that are undefeated. So I'm gonna wrap this video up, but I'm telling you right now, this announcement that Canelo Alvarez is about to make when it comes to announcing his next opponent is gonna be big news regardless of who he chooses. And this is something I always want to ask you Canelo fans. For you fans keep saying, oh, well, he's doing the same thing that Mayweather did. First of all, since you've been saying that, I'm gonna go ahead, I've already started working on it, but it's gonna be a long video. I'm gonna break down their entire careers when they were the same age, from the beginning to today. I'm gonna do that for you guys since you keep comparing Canelo to Floyd Mayweather. But this is a question I always wanted to ask you. If you believe that Canelo Alvarez is doing the same things that Floyd Mayweather did, then how come you guys weren't the biggest fans of Floyd Mayweather? How come you never defended Floyd Mayweather, but you're defending Canelo Alvarez? You see, those are what I call decafs, dumb casual ass fans that expose themselves for who they really are. Because when you're comparing Canelo to Floyd, say they're the same, but yet the only difference is you don't like the one that's not black who's doing the same thing, what does that tell us about you? We know what time it is. You didn't even realize that you just admitted that only thing you base this sport on is race. And that's why I call these type of fans race fans. They're not boxing fans. These are race fans. They contradict themselves over and over again. These are the same fans that was calling Floyd Mayweather a bum, a cherry picker, he didn't fight anyone, he has the worst resume ever, just whatever they could say, they said it about Floyd. But now all of a sudden you're saying, oh, well, Canelo was just doing the same thing Floyd did, so how come you're not talking about Canelo the same way? We know what time it is. But don't worry, Canelo fans. You asked for the comparison to Floyd Mayweather and you are damn sure gonna get it. And it ain't gonna be nothing but hardcore facts. No speculation. Facts and stats. You're gonna get the whole truth on this channel all the time. See, the beauty of YouTube is you can find any channel where a person is telling you exactly what you want to hear. But my channel is a little bit different because coming to my channel is like going to the doctor's office. You may not hear what you want to hear, but you know it's something you need to hear because it's the truth, right? The truth is not designed to make you feel better, to make you happy. The truth is to inform you so you know what's going on. And this is the reason why decafs, they'll listen to their friends say stuff that they know deep down is not true, but it makes them feel better. It's therapeutic, right? It's kind of like, I box as an amateur, my kids box as an amateur, and everyone who boxes, they know that whenever one of your friends loses, everyone is always gonna say, oh man, you got robbed. When a lot of people, they know deep down, that's my boy, but I think he actually lost that fight. But it's therapeutic to make that person who just lost feel better. So everyone will say, hey man, you got robbed, man, you won that fight, right? Knowing deep down what the truth is. So this is what a lot of decafs do on the internet. They congregate with other decafs saying things that they know is not true, but it's therapeutic. They may go to a channel where some person is telling them everything they want to hear, and it makes them feel good to hear it, but they know it's not true. That's why after they leave that channel, they come to my channel and they want to hear everything I have to say because they're going to the doctor's office. God damn it. I hope this doctor is gonna give me some good news today because I don't want to hear no bad news, right? And that's the reason why these decafs cannot stop watching my channel. I literally cannot pay these decafs to stop watching my videos. They're gonna watch it no matter what because they wanna know what the truth is. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. I always say on this channel, pay-per-view fights should actually be free. And now the day has come where I'm about to hook you up with an app where you can watch all your pay-per-view events, boxing, UFC, etc. for free. I want to introduce Block TV, the best internet streaming television app out there. They provide over 3,600 channels, including HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, and Starz. They have a massive video on demand library with over 40,000 of the new release movies and the latest TV series. And it also includes DVR. So you're getting all of this for $34.99 a month. And once again, that includes free pay-per-view. So this one right here is a no-brainer, guys, because back in Las Vegas, I was paying damn near $200 a month for my cable. Those days are long gone now. So to get the app, make sure you guys go over to getblocktv.com and put in my promo code and get 30% off your first month. You also get a free month for every friend you refer. The promo code is DBNation.